You are listening to the Purdue Report every Wednesday on the Central Indiana Sports Report. Sorry, we're a little late this week, but big game was on Tuesday night. We had a reaction after that. Oh, God, yes. Welcome back, Purdue fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for this week's Purdue Report with Jake Dunn. Jake, we're going to talk a little basketball. It's not been a very good couple of weeks. And we're going to talk about the football schedule release. And honestly, right now, I'm in the mood to talk about anything other than Purdue basketball. So let's start with the football release. Welcome back, Jake. And tell me what stood out to you when looking at the 2026 Purdue football schedule.
As always, thanks for having me and excited to talk a little bit of Purdue football here. The schedule, we've known the opponents for a while, but we just haven't known the dates and all that yet. So I've got a little bit of an easier schedule compared to last year. There's no Ohio State, no Michigan, no Oregon. So they kind of dodged those guys, but still have to go to IU, have to go to Iowa, have to go to Penn State, and have to go to Illinois. So it's definitely some tough games. Obviously, all games are going to be tough here in the Big Ten, but yeah, it's lighter load than last year for sure, especially in the non-conference schedule. So it's hard to kind of get a gauge on how good some of these opponents are, just because of like the transfer portal and
Sure.
things like that, head coaching changes.
I don't know if I've ever said this before the last couple of years, but the two toughest opponents on the schedule are in-state opponents.
They are. So, Greg, I'm curious to get your thoughts here on this series with Notre Dame. Do you think Purdue should keep that series, or do you think they should kind of do away with it?
Absolutely. You play Notre Dame every chance you get. The more eyeballs you get on your team, the better. Notre Dame gets a lot of eyeballs. Every chance you get, you play Notre Dame.
I'm in agreement with you there. I've seen some things online of people wanting to get out of the series, and maybe kind of take the IU route and put in an FCS opponent, or maybe a G5 opponent.
Nobody sees you play, especially if you're going to play Indiana State and Wake Forest, and those are your non-conference games. I would argue that if you're going to play Notre Dame, maybe you play Indiana State and Jacksonville State, something like that, rather than Wake Forest. But Wake Forest isn't any good. If you're any good at all, you got to beat them anyway. I think if you're going to play Notre Dame, you probably want to go pretty light on the other two, but you got to play Notre Dame. You have to.
Yeah. And speaking of Wake Forest, I think Purdue's going to try to push that series back, push that return trip to Winston-Salem back a little bit into the 2030s. So I think they're trying to make an effort to, when they are playing Notre Dame, to maybe get a little bit of a weaker opponent in there. But with again with the transfer portal, Wake Forest is pretty decent this year. But who knows what Purdue's going to look like? Who knows what Wake Forest is going to look like? So it's just hard to kind of project wins and losses here for a lot of these teams. Probably not going to beat Notre Dame. Probably not going to be IU. Probably not going to be Iowa. Penn State thought they got a pretty good coach, and that guy brought a lot of players over from Iowa State, and they were a good program this year. So a lot of unknowns on the schedule. There's only one bye week this past season, 2025. Purdue had 2 bye weeks. So it's October 24th is the bye week here. With the bye on October 24th, you've got 7 games before the bye. 5 of those 7 are at home, which is nice. Then after that bye, you have 5 games, and 3 of those 5 are on the road. That bye does come between visiting Washington and then going to Penn State. So that's a nice kind of bye there, I guess. Get a little bit more prepared for Penn State with the transfer portal additions that Barry Odom and staff are able to bring in. And this a little bit easier schedule, I think Purdue can look to improve off of the 2-10 season they had last year.
If everything went perfectly with these first 7 games, I mean, Notre Dame's probably the only certain loss at Illinois is almost a certain loss. And I would say that at UCLA and Washington at home were pretty tough too. But if everything went perfectly, you can get off to a 5-2 start there.
For sure. And to kind of run through the schedule here, season kicks off September 5th against Indiana State. The week after, September 12th, they play Wake Forest at home. Then they make the trip, an early conference game here. That next week, September 19th, they travel to UCLA. So that'll be kind of a new environment for the Boilers. They've yet to make the trip out there.
2000
football conference game. They've yet to make the trip out there.
Drew Brees sure made the trip.
Yeah. Yes, he did. So that'll be an interesting game. They fired their head coach mid-season. After that, they had some success there. Then his head coach, I believe, went to be the offensive coordinator at Northwestern. They're kind of a new, you don't really know what to expect with them. The week after that, September 26th, Notre Dame at home. Then as we get into October here, October 3rd, go to Illinois. October 10th at home against Minnesota. October 17th at home against Washington. Ryan Walters makes his return trip to Purdue. We saw how his first game against Purdue went. Purdue at Washington looked pretty lackadaisical and looks like they didn't really want to be there. So hopefully the team can be fired up for that game. Then you've got your bye that we mentioned there on October 24th. Then you go
a lot tougher.
Then you go to Happy Valley. So go over to Penn State. Then you got Maryland at home. That's definitely a winnable game. You go to Iowa. That'd be a cool game to go to. I may have to put that one on my radar. Then you got home against Wisconsin. If they're anything like they were this year, you got a chance to win there. We'll kind of dive a little bit deeper here into kind of the history of Purdue and Wisconsin. It's not good, FYI, for Purdue. Then you finish off the season, as always, with the Old Oaken Bucket at IU on November 28th. So some of those games could get flexed.
Something else that day, Jake.
Yeah. The last two meetings here between IU and Indiana, IU has won those games by a combined score of 122-3. And Purdue's last Big Ten win was against IU in 2023. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I bring that up a lot, that if you went to a coma that day and I told you 2 years later that Indiana was the national champion, you'd be really confused.
For sure. So
I think we're all still confused.
We talked about Wisconsin. Purdue's lost 18 straight against Wisconsin. Purdue's last win in the series was 2003. I was 2 years old. Last win at home was last win in West Lafayette was 1997. So I was not alive yet for that one.
I remember that one as well. Billy Dicken getting the job done.
So hopefully Ryan Brown can be a Billy Dicken and get this job done. So
hey, Drew Brees gets all the credit for turning Purdue's football program around, but it started with Billy Dicken.
And then you've got Penn State. Penn State has won 11 straight against Purdue. And Purdue at all time only has one win ever in state college, and that is in 2004. So there's quite a few streaks here that we've seen and are looking to overcome. So
Susie and I once spent one of the coldest days of our lives at a Penn State Purdue football game.
Was it a pretty miserable day? Both, just the environment as well as the game.
It was a great football game. It was the first year Purdue, the Joe Tiller's first year. And I believe Penn State ends up winning by 3 touchdowns or more, but it was late defensive plays. I think Purdue had twice as many yards as Penn State. And, Purdue ends up in the Alamo Bowl that year, beat Kansas State behind Billy Dicken. So, and it was, I believe, the first ever appearance of Drew Brees at Ross-Ade Stadium that game, because they were down late in the game, and wow. Susie and I were there. Already started to hear things that this kid was special. Back up, just wait. And They were right, in case you hadn't heard.
Yeah,
Congratulations to him. He's about to be a Hall of Famer, by the way.
always good to have him in your Rolodex there for recruiting. I believe he was a big part of kind of getting Ryan Brown to Purdue out of high school, if I remember correctly. But looking here, kind of at the non-conference, the biggest opportunity for wins there. It's the second time in 3 years that Purdue has opened with Indiana State. Purdue won 49-0 in 2024. That ended up being their only win of the season. Next week against Wake Forest, Purdue does lead that series all time 4-1. The last time they played was in 2003. But the last time they played in West Lafayette, Wake Forest ended up taking that game. And to round out the non-conference schedule here, Notre Dame, September 26th. The Irish beat Purdue at home 66-7 in 2024. I was unfortunately at that game. They've won 10 straight in the series, and Purdue's last win in that series was 2007. So, and in that 3-game stretch, I think 2-1 obviously is the goal. Probably not going to win at Notre Dame, so I'm really hoping to start the season off with 2 wins there. And at that point, you've already matched your win total from last year.
Indiana and Notre Dame are tied for the betting favorites to win the 2026 national championship. Also with Texas and Ohio, all plus 750 at this point.
So Notre Dame, obviously, they're going to be a tough game. IU is always a tough game. Kurt Signetti and Marcus Freeman will definitely be able to reload there on the portal, and they'll have their teams ready to go. And they don't see too often. I guess more IU. Notre Dame has dropped some games in the non-conference that they shouldn't have, but I guess they don't have a conference just in their right. Like Northern Illinois, for example.
Seems to happen every year.
Yeah, there's always one of those games. So maybe Purdue can be that team for Notre Dame, but it's certainly going to be a tall task.
Just like 1997 when we went into that game assuming they were going to lose, and they just kept hanging in there, and maybe this will be that team. We can only hope. All right, Jake, I think we're obligated to talk a little bit of basketball here. We did the last couple of days, so we don't need to very much, but I think we found something maybe late in that game. Going a little smaller might be better in some situations.
I certainly think you have to at least try it, and I think Matt Painter's not afraid to do that. In this game, Purdue's big. Looks like mainly Oscar Clough. They're just kind of being attacked on the perimeter. They were switching basically everything, and the hedging that they do on the screens hasn't really worked over the past few games. And that rebounding advantage that normally comes with having those bigger guys out there hasn't really materialized here over the past few games. So if you're not decisively rebounding, if you're not protecting the rim, if you're getting beat on the perimeter like that and giving up some clean looks on the perimeter against a team that has the power to make it hurt against you, then that size becomes more of a liability than a strength. So I think TKR is certainly more switchable if you're going to commit to switching basically everything. Obviously, TKR is a little more versatile there. Offers a better offensive flow. We saw that last year when he was an All-American. It just gives you more flexibility there for the matchup. So
I don't think there's any reason to make a change in the starting lineup. You go the 2 big. If it's not working, you go to Benter. You go to Meyer. You make a change there and put Trey Kaufman-Renn at center and go from there. I don't think you have to do anything drastic to make an adjustment.
I'm not sure who you necessarily take minutes away from there at the end of games to make that happen, but I think it's something that is worth at least trying. So maybe we'll see that here against at Maryland or against Oregon. Kind of give you some opportunities to experiment there. And as we talked about in the post game reaction, I think poise has kind of been the the biggest red flag as of late. It's a veteran team with experienced guards. I mean, these guards have played. I've started all 4 years of their careers.
Hit an awful lot of big shots.
Yep, and they've had multiple runs in March, and yet they're still having breakdowns. At the end of games, they're still missing switches. That end right three at the end, like that was a missed switch there, if I remember correctly. And like I saw during the game, Braden Smith was caught ball watching, and his man back cut and got a wide open layup, and like you just can't have that happening from your leader.
Two bad fouls in the second half. Otherwise, IU's offense did basically nothing. There was a couple where the defense was so good at the end of the clock, they had a foul, and one of them was at the very end of the clock off an inbounds play, and that was just inexcusable and really hurt. The thing that gives me the most hope is the thing that always gives me the most hope as a Purdue fan, and that is Matt Painter is the best at making adjustments. He's got the personnel to do it. We'll see if he can do his magic.
I think he can. It's certainly a crossroads moment here for Purdue. They've dropped 3 straight. That February, obviously playing at Maryland, and then in February you also have 3 top 7 opponents as of right now. Obviously this team's been there before. I think Matt Painter in his post game presser said that it's not frustration. It's more of like an alarm that say something's going to happen here. So I think can certainly he and the staff can certainly identify the fixes. Obviously Purdue has talent, but time isn't necessarily on Purdue's side here. You gotta get it together here as you enter in this really tough February. Obviously would have loved to go into February undefeated in the conference, or maybe dropping one of those games to keep you back in the race. I guess they're not technically out of it, but it's just not very likely that they'll contend for the Big Ten title here, just with how many good teams they have to play towards the end of the schedule. But
I'll say this, Jake, if they go on a run and go unbeaten, they're definitely going to at least have a chance to be champions. So it's kind of still fate in their own hands. I don't think Nebraska, I don't think any of those teams are losing fewer than 3 games in the conference. Just too many good teams in the Big Ten.
And I just don't think that's very realistic for them to go undefeated. Obviously, would love for them to. I just don't think it'll happen, especially if you're at the Purdue started the game pretty well, but it kind of lost its edge there towards the middle of the first half. They weren't really going after loose balls or losing the ball. Had slow reactions on defense, poor closeouts, missed box outs, and we saw a few communication breakdowns. And IU was able to,
as far as that goes all year.
And IU was able to capitalize on that with they shot 50% in the first half. They made 8 threes, grabbed 5 offensive rebounds with a front court that's frankly just not very strong. And they went on that 13-0 run that kind of flipped the game.
And the first half, the last 10 minutes of the first half was just unwatchable.
Yeah,
I thought the second half, the offense was still pretty bad, but the defense was really good. And it's been bad for a long time. Now, of course, they missed on Enright. They missed a couple of, like I said, but 80% of the possessions, their defense was good in the second half.
In the second half, to your point, Lamar Wilkerson, he had 8 points, but it was on 7 shots. Tucker DeVries didn't score in the second half, and he only had 1 field goal attempt. But Nick Dorn, I think, if I remember correctly, he was like 4 of 9 from the 3 or from the field in this game. But it felt like he didn't miss a single shot all game. The way he was hitting that, it's some pretty crazy shots. But he finished with 18
it feels like
points.
No one's missed a shot since the Penn State game or the Iowa game.
Yeah.
Everybody's hitting every shot, even shots that I think that was well defended. They're hitting them
for sure. But Nick Dorn had 10 in the second half, and it was the team just repeatedly just kept giving him space, even though he was hitting all those shots, and that's just something that it just can't happen, and that's something that Matt Painter addressed in the post game. So This is the first time in past few years that shooting has actually been kind of a strength for IU. But this is these Purdue seniors. I think they've only won one time at Assembly Hall, so I think they're 1-4 in their careers at IU. So Braden Smith, historically, like I talked about before, and the preview, hasn't played very well at Assembly Hall. This is probably his best game that he's had there. Finished with 14 points, but yeah, I'm sure. Like, and Michelle texted us this. I'm sure he's probably happy to not have to go back there again.
Yeah, no kidding. I hate losing to that team, Jake, so much. I hate it so much.
Yep.
They're not the team I hate the most, but they're the team I hate losing to the most. That's for sure.
And I think you said it, Greg, in our recap. But if you're a team on the bubble and you need a big win, play Purdue, because it seems like the 3-game or Illinois, they're absolutely going to be a tournament team. But UCLA and IU, they're kind of on the bubble, and they needed a quad 1 win, and Purdue gave it to them. So yeah, hopefully Maryland. I don't think they're really on the bubble. Oregon, I don't think they really are either. So hopefully, Purdue can take care of those. We've also seen teams in the past, lose 3 in a row. The UConn team that Purdue went up against in the national championship, they lost 3 in a row. I think they may have had some injuries there, if I remember correctly, but they still lost 3 in a row. The 2006, 2007 Florida team that won the national championship, they lost 3 in a row. I saw something online from Chris Kramer said that, when he was a senior, they lost 3 in a row, and really had to kind of band together and get better on defense, take pride in that, and take pride in their effort. So certainly it's certainly a crossroads, but hopefully the leaders on this team will be able to be able to get some fires under some seats there in the locker room, and this team can get back on the right track. So certainly still think they can contend for a national championship, although I may not have seemed like it in the reaction podcast that I did, but they still have the talent, but you just gotta execute.
Jake, thanks so much. Appreciate it as always. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Please do us a huge favor. Share this podcast with a Purdue fan in your life and help us spread the word that we're talking about the Purdue Boilermakers all the time, Jake. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Boiler up.
Boiler up. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.